Yes.
Okay.
I don't.
Thank you.
All right. Looks like we're streaming.
There it is. I got it.
All right, and we're gonna get.
Well, Brent will bring in when he's
Can you tip
available.
down a little bit, Steve?
Yeah,
You need your head up closer. Just tip. All right. I'll do it. And very good. All right. Place everybody. And here we go. And we're going to go in 3, 2.
Try it again.
Okay.
Take 2.
Okay. Where do I put the space in?
Mute is off.
Oh, mute is off. And we're going to go in 3, 2, 1, and.
Hi, Steve Gilmore here. This is the Gilmore Gang. It's Friday. That's the only thing that I can say with confidence.
It's always Friday when we do this show.
It's always Friday every
Usually.
day.
It's always Friday every day.
Thank God it's Friday. Okay. Joining us in a few minutes will be Brent Leary, but people who are already here include Dennis Pombriant. Welcome, Dennis.
Greetings. Hi, Steve. Hi, everybody. Good to be here.
Great to see you. And let's see, Frank Radis in London. Welcome, Frank.
Greetings and felicitations, gangsters.
Michael Markman in the Seattle area.
In the Seattle area, yes.
Yeah, I love how he looks like. Can you tap that mic, see if it's on? Busted. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead and do it. I'll help you. Do it again.
Well, I could
Do it again, Michael.
Boy,
Frank on the Foley.
this is a real Foley alert. Yes. Okay, and bringing up the rear with endless newsletters talking about columns he wrote in 2015. No, 11.
Oh.
12.
Oh,
12.
Yes.
Oh,
So-
I do that too.
It's going to be hot off the presses, I'm telling you right now. And we're going to get to it first because I'm sick of the argument. And not just Keith's argument, but the other side too. So anyway, that's Keith Tier. Welcome, Keith.
I'm in trepidation now. I'm nervous.
Excellent. And like I said, Brent Leary will join us as soon as he clears one of his 10,000 shows that he does on his own network. All right, so I guess we'll just get right to it. I'd like 2 people to raise their hands, one for the Facebook regulation side and the other against it. So I'm guessing that will be Dennis and Keith.
Well, I'm holding back to see if anybody else wants to face the wrath.
Yeah, which side are they on?
can I ask for a clarification?
No, I want you to come in later to mediate.
Okay. All right. I will leave it as foggy as it is. Then.
Okay, I'll take the against the FTC side of the argument.
Okay, and Dennis, will you?
Well, I guess that only leaves me one other thing to say. I guess I will support the FTC.
Really?
You got to be careful, Dennis. You got to choose your war against Facebook with the right friend.
Well, I think you might be surprised by what I come up with.
Excellent. So shall we? Oh, here's Brent. What timing?
I'm sure that Brent will say that he is afraid that the FTC might. No, sorry,
Yeah.
I don't mean to speak for Brent. I take that back.
Brent's in a purple mood.
You
Yeah.
do speak. You
Purple haze.
are attempting to speak for Brent.
No, I was just
clear.
making fun. I was joking. That's all.
Yes,
I
I know.
kid. Because I kid.
No,
Because
you're supposed to say
can't-
you kid because you care, not because
I kid because I care.
Thank you.
That's
That makes me feel
exactly
a little
right.
bit better. Thank you. Although I have
No,
no
I-
idea what I just walked into.
We're about to
Facebook.
have a little fisticuffs around the FTC and government intervention in the Facebook situation. And we've
Always
got,
up for a good fight. So let me get my
oh,
popcorn.
excellent. So who wants to start?
I guess that would have to be me in support. Otherwise, Keith, you wouldn't have anything to. Well, maybe you would. Let me just posit that I think the case, as I understand it, which is not complete, is I think the wrong case to be bringing. I think it's the wrong case. I think it's the wrong case because it's confusing the user with the customer. Is that it?
Crickets.
That's good. I like that.
It's a great show. Thanks, and I'll see you next week. I'll just
Yeah.
Keith,
Tip the waitress.
I want Brent, I want you to pace yourself, Brent.
There's a mountain of subtlety inside Dennis's short sentence, which I'm now going to stumble all over and get punished for.
I knew if I waited long enough.
Um,
No, seriously, go ahead.
No, well, the first thing is, what is it that what has Facebook done that has broken a law? Because I think we're in a period where words are used very loosely. It's like every time, it reminds me of when some terrible event happens somewhere in the world and people describe it as a Holocaust, when to describe anything as the same as the Holocaust is a pretty brave thing to do, given how huge and fundamental and massive the Holocaust was. I'm not sure there's ever been another one. And so people use these words loosely. And the words that are used loosely in the context of Facebook are monopoly. So clearly Facebook is not a good actor in all kinds of ways. Certainly, some of the motives and intentions that come out of the mouths of people are bad. And, Facebook is unremarkable in that. That's a characteristic of lots of successful businesses. So the real question is, are they a monopoly? And if so, what in? The reason I republished my 2012 piece on the Instagram acquisition and the
Hold on. No filibustering here.
No, I'm saying the reason I published them is it's very obvious at that time that Facebook was threatened with death, firstly by mobile and then by messaging. And it was not a power-hungry monopoly eating up weak competitors. It was actually a weak organization, mainly a web company in 2012, and certainly not a messaging company in 2014, trying to predict what would happen in future. And
No, but you're overloading this with a bunch of different
no, because
things.
the case against Facebook is that these acquisitions.
I tell you what, I'd like to hear Dennis's response to your first comment.
All right.
Okay, well, I agree. Words matter, and I think we should just call this Facebook Gate and get it over with. That would save a lot of problems. More substantially, I think it's important to understand that the Sherman Antitrust Act that all of this trees up to was written in the era of railroad barons, and it seems like every time we talk monopoly practices, we have to reinterpret the law and ask ourselves: is this a monopoly? I still haven't gotten to the point where I'm satisfied that Facebook is the monopoly that the 46 or 48 attorneys general are pursuing. I think there's something going on. But the other thing I would say, Keith, is that I'm not a fan of the argument that goes back to when they purchased Instagram or when they purchased the other company. What was it? WhatsApp. I'm not a fan of going back there and saying, well, you had a chance to put the kibosh on it and you didn't. In point of fact, we don't know how the future will evolve until it gets here. And I think it's entirely proper for the regulators to be taking another look at how the marketplace has evolved with Facebook in it.
Keith?
You know, there was a very big acquisition last week that shall not be named. 8 years from now, can it be deemed illegal in any reasonable manner that would allow society to function, in a reasonably coherent way? I don't think so. I think I might make an exception if I actually believed that Facebook was a monopoly today. But I don't think it is today in any market. It doesn't make revenue in a monopolistic way because advertising is highly contested. I don't know what it would be a monopoly of. And the thing it would be a monopoly of has to be a market. You can't be a monopoly of a behavior. You have to be a monopoly of a market. And there is no market that it has anywhere close to a majority share of. So I just think it's a disliked company for being aggressive, big, badly behaved on occasion. And the zeitgeist, which is big is bad, seems to be driving a lot of attention towards it. And people with power can make claims, but I suspect they won't be borne out in a legal framing.
Well, to that, I would say this: as time goes on from the from the acquisition or from the instantiation of a company like Facebook, they don't become monopolies overnight. And if they make acquisitions or do other kinds of things that in the future look anti-competitive, we won't know that. And as a consequence, the marketplace is at least potentially harmed when you or I go to the marketplace to buy advertising, and our options are limited because there's no competitor directly competing with Facebook, and we have to take or leave what they offer us. And that gets to the crux of my argument that the user of Facebook, you and I, as if you have a Facebook account, I don't, is not the customer. The user is the product. The customer is that entity that goes out to purchase advertising.
I think there's something to be said there, because advertisers like to advertise in an environment that they find conducive, and the fact that Facebook has turned into such an odious sewer and is such a commanding presence in the advertising market means that people are forced to enter that sewer to do business.
Good point.
No, but what about Snapchat? What about TikTok? What about Twitter, whose advertising revenues have been going way up? Yes, they have built a fantastic franchise, no question about it. And if you're an advertiser, you can't avoid it, no question about that. But is it the only game in town? Not even close.
Well, you see, I don't know if you need to define monopoly as literally as one entity.
I think you do. I think you do, actually.
No, actually, I don't think that's the case. It's been a question of dominance, not a question of being a sole entity. If you can constrain your competition by dominance, that legally constitutes a monopoly, even if there's more than one of you.
I think Michael makes a good point in that monopoly is really the simplest case of oligopoly. Oligopoly is the bigger concept. It's one or a small group of entities controlling a marketplace
Yeah.
to the extent that they can control pricing and control who gets to enter the marketplace. For example, Standard Oil was not the only oil company in the United States, but they achieved a monopoly not simply in oil, but they actually achieved a monopoly in transport. They were able to transport their goods on rail basically for free and force, God bless you, and force other petroleum companies to pay higher prices so that the railroads would make money transporting everybody's oil. So
Dennis, I agree with that. There's duopolies as well, but I do think that I buy advertising on occasion, and I will tell you that it's fairly easy because there's programmatic exchanges. It's fairly easy to figure out what market share someone has, because you go to these programmatic exchanges and they pick the best price and the best targeting for you and stuff like that. And Facebook's it is just the case that it is a player in a very large pool, and it's a big player. But I think we shouldn't let our dislike of Facebook for various reasons, which I share, spill over into not caring about facts.
I agree with that, Keith.
What not caring about?
Sorry?
What facts are we not caring about?
Whether they're accused of being a monopoly. Let's start there. Not a duopoly, not an oligopoly. The accusation is you're a monopoly, and the proof is you bought Instagram. That's the case right there. Well, no, wrong on both counts.
Oh, that's the headline. That's what you get in the Washington
I think
Post.
that simplifies it. At the time that the acquisition of Instagram was approved, the FTC explicitly said this action is not to be construed as a determination that a violation may not have occurred. The commission reserves the right to take such further action as the public interest may require.
Yeah, and that's true of every decision they ever make, by the way. That's a rider they put on every decision.
So it's not simply a snapshot in time at the moment of acquisition, when, as you say, it was a defensive move on Facebook's part, not an aggressive move. Still, in the fullness of time, things change.
I'm going to sound naive in as I often do. I agree with you, Keith, and Michael as well. As somebody who buys a lot of advertising, I don't usually go in and say, just give me Facebook. I buy the right mix of advertising, so that takes in my mind Facebook out of the hey, it's the only game in town position, because it's not the only game in town. It's not the only place you can advertise, whether or not you feel that the content is something that you don't agree with or even agree with, first of all. Second of all, it's interesting that the argument to me, that as I listen to you guys and as I try and figure out what the government is saying here beyond it's a monopoly. Sure, they may be a monopoly in a space that they monopolize because they're that player. But it is something that I'm confused by. For example, why would the New York district attorney go after it? My immediate thought was, this is something that the conservatives are going after because they have a reason to go after it. And then the New York district attorney jumped in. I can't figure that one out. And I just feel like the other point about who is the consumer and who is the customer kind of makes you think, what are they doing this for? Obviously, as a business, they're doing it to make money, but they're servicing the customer. And the customer doesn't really care whether or not Facebook is a monopoly. They probably don't even know, for the most part, that Facebook also owns Instagram and WhatsApp. They probably don't know, and nor do they care. So should that not be part of the thought process here? I don't know. That's why I say I'm being naive about this, because this whole thing is very confusing to me. I don't see it as this big bad monopoly. I do see it as this big bad company, but that's a different story.
There was some really interesting emails disclosed in the FTC case. The one I'm thinking of the most is where Zuckerberg explains his motivation behind acquiring Instagram, and it discusses something he calls mechanics, which is user behaviors that are that have network effects. And he makes the point that Facebook doesn't have a monopoly over user mechanics, and it's always possible for something new that they haven't thought of to come along with a new mechanic that people love. And that as a company that wants to not go out of business, it's their responsibility to try to embrace things that users want to do. Instagram is the example in that particular email thread. Now, it seems to me that's a rational business decision. That if you're in social media and your job is to provide a service to human beings who want to use your service to connect to each other, and those human beings find something better, unless you try to replicate it. And by the way, he stole Chat Center from me. I wrote an article called Dear Zuck, the F word, that got very widely read, tens of thousands of people, because he completely copied Chat Center, which was something I built, exactly down to the detail.
That's a bad company.
And it's a bad company, but it's not an irrational behavior. It's actually quite smart.
Well, but in fact, Facebook did try to replicate Instagram and wasn't successful. So buying Instagram was Plan B.
I
Keith,
think
one of the viewers, a gentleman named Jose Marino, said Keith is right. The action on Facebook is a consequence of the zeitgeist, and the zeitgeist is Facebook is bad, big tech is bad, and politicians are only following the zeitgeist.
You know, there's a point that's being missed here, and it is that it's not relevant whether or not you as a consumer know that Facebook owns Instagram or Facebook this or that. The government's issue is in ensuring a level playing field, and the case alleges that the playing field is not level because of acquisitive activities and better use of captured data to derive information to outcompete competitors. Whether or not that's something that's a normal business practice for a moment, let me just hold in abeyance. There was an economist in the 20th century. He was a Scottish guy named Angus Madison, 2 Ds. And he said a democracy needs 4 things economically to succeed. It needs good transportation, a legal system that lets entrepreneurs keep the benefits of their inventions, and a couple other things that escape me at the moment. But what I see in the filing, not necessarily, this is not my opinion of Facebook, but what I see in the filing is the government saying the 4 issues are being trampled on, and it's not a fair marketplace at the moment for either companies that want to compete with Facebook or companies that want to buy advertising.
Is there an example, and I'm sure there is, and I just don't know it, an example of some company that wanted to compete with Facebook that couldn't because of something that Facebook did in retaliation against it, A, and B, isn't programmatic advertising by nature of what it is somehow a methodology to utilize data that has been gathered and then take advantage of that data the way that Facebook does?
I think there was an article either in the Post or the Times within the last couple of days that talked about I think it was the Instagram purchase. That was the one that was for $1 billion, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the owners or the founders of Instagram didn't want to sell, but knew that they didn't really have a choice because Zuckerberg would do a Keith Tier on them. It would just.
But what year was that?
I can tell you, I've just been through, I can't disclose anything other than this, but I've just been through a merger negotiation with Facebook for one of the companies I work with. And Facebook was very aggressive, as it should be. In any negotiation, you got to get the best deal you can. And we walked and decided to keep competing. They didn't have the power to make us have to agree to a bad deal. They did not. And by the way, another acquirer showed up. We just walked from that deal as well. So startups still have, if they've got great technology and great people and market traction, they actually hold a lot of cards.
Well, isn't that an example then? Isn't that a good example then that sort of belies the government's issue?
I think it's all at a new level of complexity because of the ability of Facebook to gather data about its users and the users of all the properties that it owns and combine them. That gives them enormous advertising power beyond price, because any advertiser buyer knows that you're looking for an audience, a specific audience, the most likely audience to use your product or service. And so the more data Facebook acquires, the more attractive their advertising product becomes.
True.
Isn't Google co-named in this action?
Say again?
Is
No.
Google not co-named? Is Google being?
Oh no, they got their own lawsuit. They got their own lawsuit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's two actions.
And scene.
Which is, by the way, interesting because they both only exist in one market, advertising, and they're both accused of being monopolies.
Well, there you go. I'm just saying.
Brent, do you have anything to add to this before I shut it down?
Actually, I was actually watching on the watch party on Facebook. It's really interesting discussion on Facebook while I watched the watch party on Facebook. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I have some mixed feelings, I guess, about this because I mean, I think the current era of politics that we're in kind of makes this difficult to see, what the real impetus for this is. Is it like pure motives, or is it I hate Facebook and I'll partner with anybody who will let me get rid of these guys because of some of the things that, like Frank said, they're not a good, in certain instances you don't feel that great about them. But on the other hand, I don't know if this is a monopoly or not. I mean, I tend to believe that it's not when it comes to advertising or for the most part anything else. I mean, I think there's a lot of addressable market out there for advertising, and you're seeing all these different channels kind of rise up. I mean, Amazon is definitely on the rise. What are they, number 3 in this space when it comes to that? But they're not.
Lawsuit,
yeah, but they're not. That's not their main market. I mean, I don't know. I really do have some mixed feelings. I think there's some bad things that get done by a lot of these companies, but the way that they're coming after them, I think they're coming after them in a way that doesn't really fit what they really want to get them on.
I'm going to make a little bit of a turn here, Steve, but it's not going to be that big a turn. So yesterday, I think it was, Disney had its shareholders meeting with, the new head of Disney said that Disney Plus had just reached, I want to
26 million?
say, it was more than that. It was like
Was it more?
86 million.
Yeah, it was
It
80, yeah.
86? Wow.
86 million. And that's subscribers. And that they were sort of projecting out that by 2024, they could have as many as 250 million paid subscribers. Okay, there's that. Let us not forget that there's Apple Plus, and there's this coming soon Discovery Plus, and there's HBO Max, and there's all of these other things, many of which will have an advertiser supported area in them. Add all those numbers up, and you're probably going to come somewhere close to over 1 billion available targets, all of which are different. Each one of these targets is a different demographic. So as an advertiser, you have the opportunity, Michael, to target different demographics through the use of another kind of a distribution outlet, and that is what's going on in streaming now. You know, imagine how many people HBO Max is going to start adding up once they start showing feature films. I guarantee you that 2021 is not going to be the end of debuting feature films on HBO Max. They're going to find that it works. They're going to make a lot of money in advertising, and they're going to keep it going. So I mentioned this only in that, is the government eventually going to come down and say that the stream itself is a monopoly? I don't think so. And they're not going to go after those individual companies because they have so many viewers, whether it's advertiser supported or subscription supported. In any case, I'm just making a point. I think, I'm not even sure what the point is. It just seems like it fits in this argument somewhere, or at least in this conversation.
I think it's there's so many variables that to pin it all down to a single variable, like Facebook as the bad actor, is extremely complicated because there's a lot of other things going on as well. And what they're playing for is ultimately people's attention. If you were to try to do a non-market version of what it is you monopolize, it would be attention. And if you think about how our attention is spread, that equals how much advertising we see, depending on whether we subscribe to avoid it or whether we don't. So if you take the atomic unit as a person and their attention as the market, Facebook's a fairly small player.
Yeah. What about TikTok? Where does TikTok fit into this? Weren't they the flavor of the month? And, they were capturing everybody's attention and capturing everybody's, fascination. Does that mean that they are the new it as opposed to Facebook? I mean, how quickly does our attention transition to all these different places? Yeah. Does that you have to take that into consideration when you're talking about, this monopoly thing or not?
Absolutely.
That's interesting.
The rise of TikTok is a great counter argument to the notion that Facebook has monopoly on attention.
That's interesting that you mentioned TikTok. It's funny. I was watching a UK game show the other day, and it was a new one because there was no audience. And one of the questions in the quiz was about TikTok. And I was really surprised that it wasn't as well known by these players who are pretty average Brits as it is to us. We are we're different, the way we consume our content, the way we read about our things, the way we interact and engage with the internet. So that said to me, at least in the framework of an argument or a conversation that we're having right now, that it hasn't yet reached that point of ubiquity that a Google or a Facebook or even an Instagram or certainly a WhatsApp have reached. However, it is certainly the player of the month and or the week or the day or whatever Brent was saying. And it is making a mark. And I think it does fit into that. Well, it belies the argument that Facebook is a monopoly when you talk about those kinds of apps that are able to take content, turn it into data, and then use the data to sell it for advertising.
Well, and then look what we're doing. The new is what we're doing. We've got a real-time newsletter on Telegram. We've got a live show that people can watch as it's recorded. We've got on-demand viewing afterwards. We've got a newsletter that is sent out. And we represent a little blip in hundreds of thousands of people are doing what we do. Not exactly what we do. I think we do some interesting additional things. But the future doesn't look like a centralized social network. The future looks like everybody's on all the time and you get to choose what to watch, listen to, and engage with. And it's coming from the internet via Restream or Twitter or whatever. So I don't see Facebook's future as being owning more attention. I think Facebook's future is going to be owning less attention.
That's interesting. I like that.
I think you're right. And they're huge wells we very rarely mention because we're not participating. There's Twitch and there's the game consoles. The new PS5 is flying off the shelves faster than they can make it, and there are whole bunches of people who are spending hours and hours with their attention on gaming.
Well, and then look at what the deal, I think I mentioned this last week, but coming up on, I think it's December the 26th, all the football games, I think there's like 2 or 3 football games, NFL games. You can't see them on the traditional networks. You can't even see them on the cable networks. The only way you're going to be able to see them is if you got Amazon Prime or Twitch. So what does that do to the ad model and the ability to transfer attention into commerce? And then you're looking at Amazon now. Is Amazon a bigger threat than Facebook and the others because they have multiple, opportunities to capture your attention and then convert it into actual cash and not just.
Well, that's a very good point. I had written many times up until recently that I thought that traditional broadcast and cable television would be the only place where you would end up getting live and big events and concerts and sports and things like that. And that's proven already to be completely wrong. And as by virtue of exactly what you just said, Brett, and therefore are those places that are now doing the things that those other distributors used to do, are they likely to be targeted? I don't know. But I find that and this all happened recently, and I guarantee you some of it had to do with the paradigm that was created by the virus.
We're getting pretty far afield here when we start talking about broadcasting football games, for example, because that's not a social network. And a lot of what's been discussed here in the last 5 minutes is other inventions that attract eyeballs, which is a good thing. The value of being able to broadcast the football game and be the only person doing it means that you've got a lot of eyeballs of very homogenized viewers that you can sell trucks to or tires or whatever.
But it's social if it's two-way, isn't it? I mean, and that is something that can happen in the stream.
Well, with game's not two-way. I haven't been tackled in 40 years.
but it's more interactive than just. It is more interactive than just watching the football game, because if you look at what's going on, like if you go on Twitch and watch, the whole business model with Twitch was people actually watch other dudes playing games, but then it went from them watching the game to being immersed and being a part of the game. When you think about what could potentially happen with what Amazon is doing with Twitch and this NFL stuff, you have to have an account for Amazon Prime or Twitch, so they know who you are, and they know what you're watching, and they know what you're clicking on, and they know what. And then they're going to feed their advertising platform and say, "Hey, advertisers, guess what? We can get you right in the middle of the game. we don't have to disrupt the game." And so I don't know.
Something else to add to that. Just because the program is translated from broadcast television to Amazon doesn't mean that the advertising works the same way. If you buy time on a football game, you are buying everybody that watches the football game on a network. But on Amazon, they still have the ability to target with micro precision. You're not buying the football game. You're still just buying the audience that you want. Even though you get a broad audience, you don't have to pay for the whole audience.
That is the beauty. Let's try to separate the consequences from the power. It seems to me the power of digital, especially two-way digital, is knowing the end point, let's call it. That is knowing me, knowing you, whatever. So you would expect that as digital replaces one-way analog or even one-way digital, that the ability to what's called target, but a nicer word for that would be to be relevant to an endpoint, is a good thing, unless you think we can get rid of advertising altogether. I would like that. I'd just like there to be no advertising, but I'm realistic enough to realize that's not going to happen. So therefore you can anticipate just becoming better and better at serving something up where the chances of a person wanting what you put in front of them go up. It's just common sense to me.
You know, when I hear you say that, I translate it into Scobelese.
Yeah.
I just imagine Robert making that pitch.
Hey, I got a comment from somebody. It was a DM, so I'm not going to say who he is unless he tells me I can do that. But he says broadcasting football is, capital IS, a social network. It's just not centrally managed. And that's kind of what I was thinking in terms of, you know, you leverage this channel, like this digital channel that turns spectator sports into participating in collaboration in some way. I'm not saying you're calling plays for the team or anything, but you've got a community of people who are now not just watching, you know, separately, but now they're engaged collaboratively, and there are certain ways that they're being brought into the event, even if it's not the primary part of the event. They're becoming part of the event.
Look at our chat screen. You know, how different is that? If you were watching a football game, whether it's broadcast and it's ATSC 3.0 or it's streamed, and there's a chat stream on the right-hand side of the frame that allows you to interact with other viewers of that same game. You know,
and furthermore, if the event is big enough, it spawns multiple chat streams that aren't directly associated with it. You know, Twitter, for example, is a chat stream for events. There's a chat stream going on for election returns, for big games, for award shows, for anything big that people are sharing together. That becomes its own event. And
yeah,
then
that
event
community could exist after the event. When you think about it, I mean, the event may be the thing that brings them together. Yeah.
If the event is big enough, people will also spawn their own live streams in competition with it. You know, anytime, for instance, Apple announces a product, you'll find dozens of people who are live streaming and commenting on the event, and
absolutely
in competition with each other and with Apple.
Yeah.
But if you look at what we're doing, we have Facebook as a distribution channel, and there's some social interaction going on there through two watch parties, one that I've launched, one that Frank's launched. I don't know if anyone else has. Then we got Twitter, where I retweeted this, and there's a live Periscope stream coming into Twitter. So all of our followers are able to watch this live. Then we've got YouTube. There's a live stream on YouTube as well. We could be doing Twitch. What we've built is a social experience that is across multiple social networks. So this layer is starting to be built using technology that sits on top of all these social networks and has the audience through them. That's kind of interesting and new.
It is, and who's collecting the advertising revenue for what we're doing?
Not us.
Somebody is, or somebody will be.
Yes, Steve, is all that advertising revenue going to get us those T-shirts you promised?
You've downsized. It was actually a jacket.
Oh, okay. Those
Yeah,
jackets
I
you
know.
promised, yeah.
And I
Those-
like a
those-
mug too. I like that
yeah,
mug. you got.
hoodies. Who about some hoodies?
Well,
Yeah,
this,
there-
of turning this into QVC 2.0, can Dennis, can you round the bend here? It seemed that you said something about how this isn't a social network that we're talking about here, and then that got bounced around a couple times, and apparently it is a social network according to somebody. So
that was Alan Berkson who let me say his name. He's over at Freshworks.
thank you, Alan.
Hey, Alan.
Okay, so can you give me a pithy summary of this so that we can move on?
My pithy
pithy.
summary would be more to come, but I think the essence of this right now is that the government has to prove a negative, which is a difficult proposition in logic. And they have to prove a harm to the market because something doesn't exist in the market. And that's probably why we're going to be looking at this for 10 years, and this is not the last conversation we have.
That sounds like something that would end up in the Supreme Court.
All right. Anybody want to vector either parallel to this or bring up a completely different topic? And if nobody does, I'll do it.
Well, the parallel would, and we don't have to talk about this, but it's been an amazing week for IPOs. Tom
Yes.
Siebel's C3, Airbnb, DoorDash, most of them doubled or close to doubled on opening, which has fueled the whole controversy around the IPO process.
Yeah, because they all went down immediately the next day.
No, they didn't actually.
Well, a certain Airbnb went down 23 points, I think, and so did DoorDash,
Wow.
23 points.
Wow.
Well, they went way up on the IPO though, didn't they? I
doubled.
think they did. Yeah.
But
There's just a lot of
that-
money floating around because it's not only that, it's like these, just say acquisitions as a whole, you see a lot of money just out there, it looks like.
Money looking for a home. Well,
I've got one. I've got one right here for 'em.
Well, I know, there's a lot of consumer spending that didn't happen in 2020 because people were constrained by the virus, and so there's more money than usual in people's pockets, and some of that money is getting into mutual funds or getting into individual stocks.
Actually, I had my 18-year-old's friend visiting yesterday, and he opened his iPhone and showed me his Robinhood app and was asking me stock advice. I think young people are using
Wow.
Robinhood big time.
That's really interesting.
I couldn't get Robinhood over here, so because I needed it for something. I had bought a stock called MedMen, and it was like $5 or $6 a share when I bought it. And I thought, wow, this is a great thing to buy, and it's down to like 17 cents. And the broker that I bought it from wouldn't sell it for me. And I said, I need to sell this stock so that I can at least take the loss at the end of the year. How am I supposed to do that? And of course, he said, open up a Robinhood account, which I can't do. Anyway, there is that.
Huh. Wow.
That's such a first world problem, isn't it?
I feel sorry for you, Frank.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I didn't.
Hang in there, buddy.
I don't know why I brought that up.
Hey, well, speaking of the Supreme Court, maybe we could talk a little bit about Trump's path after January 20th, how he gets indicted, how he gets a get out of jail free card.
If he doesn't in the States, does he? I don't see how he gets a get out of jail free card from
Not
New
from
York
the state of New York.
No, I don't.
No.
New
The
York,
only
yeah.
get out of jail free card is an airplane ticket, either to North Korea or Moscow.
right now he's just digging a bigger and bigger hole for himself, isn't he? I mean, he's not putting down any path to being excused.
I don't know. He may be digging a bigger hole, but he's putting lots of other people's cash into that hole.
Yeah.
He's
He is,
raising money all over the place.
Yes.
More money. He raised more money, from what I heard, after the election than he raised in the weeks before the election, which I
Not
find
only
kind of
that,
interesting.
it's also the most profitable business venture he's ever been in. I mean, this is the business model for him. It's not a delusion, and it's not an attempt to win a second term. It's a really lucrative business model. He is
Really?
raking in the cash, and I
That's a
think
way to think about it.
you may be aware that when you contribute to his Stop the Steal fund, there's a little fine print that says the first $5,000 doesn't go to Stop the Steal. The first $5,000 goes into his general PAC. Which
See, if
is
people
a
actually
big trust
read
fund
that,
he can use for any purpose he wants.
if people actually read that thing that Stop the Steal, you know what the best way to stop the steal is? Don't give any money to that. That's the best way to stop the steal. Don't donate to that.
As far as profitability is concerned, just keep in mind that this is the only person in the galaxy who lost money owning a casino.
Yeah, go figure.
Does it count that
The
it was in
thing-
Atlantic City, or
Doesn't even matter. Yeah, and he missed out on the internet version of his casinos, didn't he? Which at least might have been able to help. I actually want to know why the 106 representatives in the Congress are supporting this Texas lawsuit. And is it really as simple as, oh, this guy's going to continue to be powerful and I don't want to piss him off, and 106 of us isn't going to make enough of a difference
No,
in
it
the entire
rhymes.
House?
It starts with P and it rhymes with Arden. There's a lot of guys out there who don't want to go to jail. So
but
they're
it's
like,
not-
hey, we'll jump on. If you pardon me, hey, I'm over here.
Well, I think it's a more
half
sinister way of
laughing,
looking
but I'm
at it.
half true.
There's a more sinister way of looking at it. And Marx famously said that history repeats itself first as tragedy, then as farce.
Is that
Trump is-
Groucho or Carl? Or
Trump is reversing that. He is playing this game out as pure farce. But when it repeats, it's going to be smarter authoritarians. And I think there are people in Congress who are really trying to lay the groundwork for minority rule that extends for a long time. The demographics are moving against the Republicans rapidly, and they're devoted to trying to hold on to power as long as possible. So if they have any chance, for instance, of throwing out votes from Black people in big cities, they're going to take it.
What does that say about what's going on in Georgia with the Senate race, Brent? What's the vibe in Georgia right now?
chaos and disorder like everywhere else. I mean, it's just, you got the Republicans, like it's literally a civil war going on between the actual state government versus people that Trump has on his side. And it's like they're going after each other. It's pretty amazing. I don't know what that means for January 5th or not, but they're really going after each other here. It's pretty amazing to see.
I mean, if you watched that any of that rally that he had there, he certainly didn't give the two Republican candidates much time to do anything other than to suck up to him. And then of course there's the what you were just saying about the sort of it feels too national. The story from here anyway, it feels like a national story. It doesn't feel like a local story, and I'm not there. That's why I'm curious to know how you see it.
I think it's both. I think it's been because of the importance of those two Senate seats. It of course it naturally became a national thing. But then you got like the attorney general over in Texas suing 4 states and then getting those, like you said, those other 106 people on board with that.
And 17 other attorneys general.
17 other states, attorneys general. And then there's a natural response to that. It's going down here, but it's spread everywhere. It's just amazing that one guy can do all of that.
So
Snap.
what's the
Hang on a
timeline of
second,
that?
hang on. Snap poll. And I want a yes or no answer from everybody. Will Congress pass and Trump sign a bill for dealing with the economic effects of the virus? Yes or no? Starting with Dennis.
No caveats?
No, please no.
No.
Brent,
No.
Keith,
No.
Michael,
Nope.
Frank.
Yes.
Someone had to say
God.
it.
You're just saying that to be argumentative.
No, I'm saying it because it has to happen. I look, I'll play the Brent card. I'm afraid it might not happen, but thank you, Brent. I mean, it never stops being funny. But I think it has to happen, and that's why I said yes.
Okay, well,
It may not be the Senate. These are caveats. I'm sorry, Dennis, but I'll throw them in. It may not be what's really useful, but it has to be something. They're not going to put $1,200, which was kind of ludicrous anyway, into everybody's pocket with Donald Trump's signature on the check. They're not going. I don't think they're going to do that. They're talking about making it an extension of the unemployment insurance for X number of weeks or whatever. I'm not suggesting that even if they do it, that it actually makes that much difference. But from an optics perspective, it will make some difference.
yeah, but nobody's running for anything. So the optics perspective is, I mean, McConnell doesn't care about the optics at all, and he's in control. So
Anyway, that's my opinion, though. That's it.
I think optics is not a relevant framing for anything, because the bifurcation between the Trump voters and everyone else is so extreme that everyone's only talking to their own audience and they don't care what the other guy thinks.
It's my optics.
Yeah. I think what's really going to happen is that it might get through both houses of Congress, but it'll get through with majorities insufficient to override a veto, and therefore Trump will veto it as his flipping the bird to the nation on his way out the door. And Congress won't have time or the votes to override the veto. It's going to come back after the next Congress is settled or sworn in on January 3rd?
And he flips the bird and his supporters say, oh, that's all right.
Yeah.
But going back to Georgia, it's looking more and more, difficult to predict, right? Last week, we both thought both Democrats would get elected. It'd be a brave person who would. Sorry?
we didn't all think that.
Yeah, I thought it was 1-1.
Okay.
Right.
That's how I came away from it, thinking that it was 1-1.
Yeah, and 1 and 1 equals 0.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I actually think it's looking better for the Democrats this week. This guy, where has David Perdue gone into witness protection or something? Have you seen this guy? You saw briefly make a little appearance at the rally, which he barely got a chance to say like a sentence, but then he went back into his hole. I mean, they had that dude Ossoff on stage, basically debating himself or empty space or something. I mean, you don't see it. This Purdue guy is just completely gone underground. And I think that's not good for him. I don't think that's going to be a winning argument for you to go AWOL right before you go to an election.
He's doing late night. He's doing late night comedy now.
He's taking full advantage of it.
Using a rope-a-dope strategy, hoping that he can get 50% plus one.
But
that's a risky proposition.
Was it Frank who said this is national? not local. It really
Yeah.
has very little to do with the candidates. You know, it's not irrational that Trump didn't let them speak. They're terrible. They're really terrible. He is trying to put himself on the ballot and hope that he can pull in enough of his supporters to get them over.
Pence,
I thought that she sounded exactly like, a text to speech bot. I was listening to her the other day and I went, oh my God, that, I have that same text to speech bot on my one of my sites. And it reads the stuff that I write, the blogs that I write. It's a woman speaking. I'm going, except for the British accent. My God, that's what she sounds like.
I mean, Siri sounds way better than
Text to
that.
speech algorithms are much better than she is now.
her day job is sitting inside British elevators saying, floor 2, floor 3.
You guys are terrible. I think he's remarkably lifelike.
Oh yeah. No, that's right. She's the one who does the Holby City sound effect.
I don't know. We're laughing at all, but she's still worth like all of us combined plus another 500 million.
Couple of zeros.
See,
here.
that just proves that money isn't everything.
How does
I
that?
mean, it's a lot. It's definitely a lot, and it's actually way better to have it than to not have it. But it didn't make her have any better personality or actually give her a better sounding voice, did it? I don't think so.
You got a point
That's
there.
your
Her voice
answer,
didn't
Steve.
sound-
That was
Well,
my point.
if she thought it was important, she'd hire Henry Higgins.
Who was the guy that taught
Is that
George
the guy
V
from-
how to?
Is that the guy from Magnum PI or?
Henry Higgins was the
The
guy-
Higgins, that's right, Higgins.
Good. Yeah.
Higgins.
Frank, does your answering machine still feature the Rockford file?
No, but I was actually thinking about putting it back on. Just the other day, I went and searched and found a really high-end copy of the Rockford Files answering machine message in a file of ringtones, and I'm thinking I should just put that back on my mobile
For the
device.
benefit of people who don't care, what is the line? What is it that it does?
This is Jim Rockford. I can't get to the phone right now, but if you leave a message, I'll get back to you. Beep. Who's Jim Rockford, you might ask? I'm sure everybody here knows who Jim Rockford is.
This is true. We do.
Rockfish.
Okay, so
Rockfish.
anything else before we retire?
Oh, we retired.
Retired.
Yeah, I mean,
I already did
trying
that.
to keep this.
I think we had a great show. I
Yeah.
think we've had a great show. It might be good to go out on a high note.
Well, I knew you would say that, Brent. That's why I'm trying to keep Brent from lapsing into his trail of tears
Malaise.
like last week.
I had a good night's sleep last night. The Rams won. Sorry, Dennis. The Rams won. So I'm feeling a little better. I have more energy today than I have last week.
What is this Rams you speak of?
Oh,
It's a
They make
truck.
Trojan-
It's a truck.
Right.
I
it's,
think
yeah, it's a
Chrysler
Ford
truck,
truck.
right.
Hey, I have a question. Has anyone seen Mank?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see that. Yeah. No, all right. Don't tell. If I
No,
need to
what-
drop off, I don't want to hear anything about it before I watch.
Spoiler
But,
alert, it's about
Did we
Citizen
like it?
Kane.
Did
What?
we like it?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
I liked it a great deal. Many of my friends didn't like it at all.
Ah.
And
Oh,
what was their beef,
Well-
as it were?
I don't want to hear.
Well, I don't think we'll wait till Brent's seen it.
Yeah, because I haven't seen it yet either. I may watch it tonight.
Oh,
Because,
Brent's not like that. Oh, that.
yeah. Really? Did you?
We completely low life the last 2 weeks. We watched Virgin River.
Oh, I didn't see that.
It's really bad. It's a soap, but it's
I did watch
fascinatingly
this.
bad.
I watched the second and third seasons of Goliath because I loved season 1 a lot. Thought it was fantastic. Season 2, not so much. Season 3, what the hell were they smoking? It was like weird. But it's coming back.
Sounds like The Godfather.
Well, and now there's a new Godfather.
It's
movie.
like
Yes.
re-edited.
Yeah, but it's also got, I believe it's got Robert De Niro, I think, doing a lot of narration of parts of the story that might have been hard to understand in the original version. I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing how they re-edit it, or how he re-edits it.
We just finished The Undoing. Anybody see that?
Yes.
Not yet.
That was pretty interesting.
Very
How was
good.
the
I
ending?
liked it.
Don't talk about the ending.
No.
I don't want to hear.
Please.
Hey,
Please.
Steve,
Yes.
in case you're thinking about ending the show, I wanted to suggest maybe we go around the horn and talk about our attitudes towards holiday travel plans.
Ooh, I'm
Good
gonna
That
idea.
won't take long. That
You're
won't
going to
take
get
Yeah.
me in trouble. No, I'm going to be in trouble here.
Let's start with Dennis.
I'm planning on doing almost nothing, maybe taking a hike in the woods with the kids, probably not with masks.
Really?
Yeah.
going into the woods. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, I'm planning on walking out to the deck here.
And back.
Well, hopefully.
Don't
With a
jump.
mask?
No,
man.
Michael,
Nowhere.
is anybody
Not going out. Nobody's coming in.
other than Keith, who's going to South Africa, correct?
I'm going to Cape Town. Yeah, my wife is South African and her parents are, let's just say, getting on. And her dad is in some medical situation. So she really wants to see him. And our kids haven't seen them for 3 years. So they want to go. So I'm going too. So we are on a British Airways flight where, as far as I can tell, we are the only passengers.
Excellent.
Wow.
You know, the people, my Av Geek friends will say that flying is safer than walking around on the streets.
We've got to get a negative test 72 hours before we leave. So we're all getting tested tomorrow. So assuming we all test negative, then we're allowed to pass through Heathrow, where we can also get a 1 hour test.
Right.
But if any one of you tests positive, then all of you can't travel.
None of us can go if one of us tests
Yeah.
positive.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
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 At least you'll get some sunshine.
Yeah. No, I love Cape Town. Is one of the nicest places in the world. As long as you, I mean, it's still totally racist.
Other than that, it's great.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, you know,
other than that, how did you like to play, Mr. Lincoln?
It's interesting that anti-apartheid got rid of legal white privilege, but it totally didn't get rid of white privilege. It got rid of the legal overview. And you know, you land in Cape Town Airport, and your first 5 miles, there's shanty towns on both sides of the road, and you arrive at your in-laws, and you know, they live in the nice part of town, and there's kids begging every traffic lights that you stop at. So it is messed up.
It's horrible. And I did mean Mrs. Lincoln, Dennis.
Yeah.
We knew that.
I just have an ear
Yeah.
for stuff like that.
Yeah.
I also like reading Chinese menus for similar reasons.
I'm going nowhere. I'm not even going to my deck.
Really?
No, I'm not going anywhere. Zero.
Well, you're already in London.
That's
I mean-
true. You know, and we have the vaccine, and according to my GP, I will be able to get it sometime the week after next.
Really?
Yeah. So,
Wow.
I mean, I guess there was supposed to be today. The last I read was that the FDA was going to take the advice of the panel that had approved it yesterday, and they were going to make some kind of a decision tonight in the U.S. I guess that hasn't happened yet.
I think it
I
has.
said there's
I
There's a
saw an
headline in
alert
the
saying
Times
that
about
it had. They moved it up. They were planning to approve it on Monday, and I think they're approving it today.
And
Yeah,
then the other, there were two things I thought that that had to happen today or were expected to happen today. And the other one was the Supreme Court going to make some kind of a comment about the Texas case. Was that not expected as well today?
It's
I don't
hoped
know.
for. I don't know if it's expected.
That would mean they'd have to decide whether or not to take the case. That's about all
Yeah.
that would happen today.
And they had
They
a
shouldn't even
conference
take
call,
that.
which is I think a weekly thing yesterday. So if it came up in that call, my guess is some decision was made. We just don't know what it is. I agree with you, Brent.
But the Electoral College meets
Monday,
on Monday.
yeah, and votes.
And,
It's
and
over.
as you may know, the Electoral College doesn't actually meet. They meet on separate campuses in each state. They never get together except in the one in state by state. And I wonder
Well,
if
like every other college, shouldn't it be virtual this year anyways?
It's like the Eurovision Song Contest, Frank.
Yeah.
Can
My
we
favorite.
have the votes from France? Angleterre, nil point.
that is, I don't know if anyone else here has ever seen Eurovision, but it is a spectacle, or it was.
You've got to watch the comedy movie that's all about it.
I haven't seen that yet with Will Ferrell.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
It is
Okay.
hilarious.
My wife hates it so much I couldn't get her to watch the movie. She not only hates Eurovision, she hates Will Ferrell. Who hates Will Ferrell?
The
I
only
mean,
the only good Eurovision was when ABBA won.
Like-
ABBA won Eurovision. That's how they got famous.
Yeah. I can't think of another famous Eurovision winner other than ABBA, though. I'm sure there have been some, but I certainly can't think of any.
I've got a vague memory that Sandy Shaw appeared in it one year, but maybe I'm wrong.
There
Is that
you
a
go.
real name, Sandy Shore?
Sandy Shaw.
Sandy Shaw was Mick Jagger's girlfriend and a female folk rock singer back in the 60s.
Yeah, who wasn't?
Raise your
Good
hand.
show, guys. This is a great show, actually. It
Does-
seems to go by really fast, honestly.
Are we still on?
How about Dusty Springfield? Who knows her?
Oh,
I know Dusty.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The
I
Love
don't-
is Love.
Dusty Springfield recorded one of her big hits in Muscle Shoals.
I love when she does first we take Manhattan, then we take Berlin. She does a version of that. That's awesome.
Hmm.
And who wrote that?
I have no idea.
Is it Lou Reed? Leonard Cohen, is it?
Leonard Cohen.
Could be.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got another famous Eurovision winner.
Oh, yeah.
Celine Dion, 1988.
Really? Okay, that's pretty famous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And her version of the Hallelujah, the Leonard Cohen at the Olympics, I think it was, is incredible.
Yeah. She's pretty amazing. She's got a hell of a voice.
Well, I think we can sign off 2020 by remembering Leonard Cohen. Did he die this year or was it last year?
I think it was last year.
Yeah.
Please lift your.
Well, he's had two posthumous records since then, so it's probably 2 years.
Posthumous.
I saw 4 or 5 of his concerts when he was trying to get his money back after having it all stolen by his agent, and he was still awesome even in his later years.
Yeah, there's a lot of video of that tour. It's incredible as well.
He had an
he was
amazing
terrific.
ability to use his voice, or what was left of it, just with such emotion that he kept you riveted.
Yeah, and you're right. It wasn't the greatest voice in the end, but it was one of the greatest presentations of the use of a voice that wasn't so great. Of course, his songwriting ability.
Takes you down to the other side of town.
We should record that. Keith, you and I'm not kidding.
Who is that? Tom Waits?
That
Would
was
be cool.
that
Tom
was
Waits
Leonard
should be-
Cohen, circa 80 years old.
A quick
Tom
Google.
Waits, who became a great actor, by the way. Let's not forget.
Well, he was always a great actor. His songs are great acting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think Tina was the one that asked yesterday Where is all the good music today?
No, it was in reference to the times and the political upset that we've been in and the virus. And I was reflecting on the 1960s and how the music was really bringing people together and giving voice to that. And I'm saying, where's that now?
Yeah, that's what she's
Right, where's the Buffalo Springfield?
No, you know where it is, Tina. It's
Love that band.
There's really two types of music. There's anger music and there's joy music. And joy music is owned by the religious people these days. So all you've got is anger music. And
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that.
I watched Saturday Night Live and it had this country singer on. Oh my God, I couldn't listen to it. It was like antiseptic. Whereas good rap with melodies, even though it's anger music, is actually really good. Even Justin Bieber now, if you listen to Justin Bieber, oh my God, that kid has got so much.
Kent, Brent's, take it up.
Brent's
Gonna vomit.
He's in the hour plus mode. He's gotten there suddenly.
I'm gonna say one name, Brent.
Steve told me on the 1 hour mark when Brent is flagging, mention Justin Bieber, and he'll come back to life immediately.
I'll give you one name, and it'll bring you right back to life, Brent. Stormzy. There's the guy that is making the. Stormzy is the sort of the leader of a style of music here in the UK that is melodic and at the same time rap. And what is the name of that genre of music? I want to say, geez, I'm sorry, it's my age. No, there's a name for it. It's like crave or crunk or some weird thing, but it is
music.
No, it's not crunk. Okay. Definitely not crunk.
I can't believe I'm having this conversation with Frank. Because what's your best crunk rapper?
Well, we can talk about that if you want to, but
no, that's quite all right. I'll check out Stormzy though.
Go, man! I'm telling you, if you haven't heard Stormzy, go and listen to it. Stormzy may be what you're talking about, Tina. Wow. You should listen to some of this guy's music. It's actually easy to listen to for a style of music that you might not be familiar with.
Cool.
That's all I got.
Check that out. I haven't taken that recommendation.
Answer to Tina's question. What happens is the death of radio and the rise of streaming services and algorithmic choices of music.
I thought video already killed the radio star.
But you say that, Michael, but the advantage of being able to request those kinds of musics and have it go and find it for you is also an advantage.
Well, I'm not saying there's no compensatory advantage, but if you talk about music as a unifying cultural bed for what's happening, I think we lost that when we lost radio.
Yeah.
Who is the Chicago 7 movie?
That was good.
That was real good.
Yeah, that was
good. So raise your hand if you didn't see it.
Michael didn't.
Oh, Michael saw it.
I saw it.
Yeah. Unanimity here.
Okay.
Well, look at the time here.
It's been over an hour there, Brent.
Who's seen The Crown?
I've seen The Crown.
I've drank in some of it, but
it's interesting that there's so many people out there who are trying to talk about The Crown as though it was that I mentioned this last week, as though it were real, and you know that it's real drama.
No,
it's not a documentary. They actually framed it as semi-documentary.
No, they didn't.
No, the palace is getting pissed off.
Yeah.
What?
The palace is getting pissed off. They want a disclaimer.
Yeah, and and the producers say no disclaimer. It's drama.
I thought it's historically fairly accurate. That whole scene with Lord Mountbatten getting blown up by the IRA, and you know, all of the discussions around the troubles in quotes as it was then. I was very involved in all that. I went to Derry during the hunger strikes in 81,
Wow.
82. I actually started the Hands Off Ireland movement in the UK. I was the organizer of, you know, Brits who were on the side of the Irish.
Well, thanks for
My wife tells me stories about how she was, forced evacuated from Harrods just before a bomb exploded in there. So she has a different view of the troubles. And I still to this day go, and they call them troubles.
Well, it's, you know, we haven't got time to go into it, but if you trace the history from when the troops went in 68, I was 14. And I remember civil rights protests on BBC News, which was still a black and white TV then in 68, with the Royal Irish Constabulary, who are basically policemen in black uniforms, coshing little old ladies over the head. And the troops went in to protect the Catholics from the Protestants. And then, you know, within a year, Bloody Sunday happened when they killed Catholics who were marching on a peaceful protest in Londonderry, or Derry as it should be called. And, you know, the whole thing became effectively a civil war. And it spilled over into the UK because of the troop presence. And so obviously morally and ethically, you can be disgusted with all kinds of things that happened. But if you go back to the cause, you know, violence has a cause, and the cause is that border. And that border is still illegitimate today. And actually Brexit is bringing it back into full problem. You know, it's going to be a problem again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was commenting though on how, you know, how civilized the UK is to call something as bloody as that troubles.
Yeah.
And anyway.
You know, it goes to the heart of the British Constitution. There's a famous thing that I'm going to play the role of Dennis now. The Curragh Mutiny, Curragh. Check it out on Google. The Curragh Mutiny was basically the British military rising up against the government because the government was tempted to give Ireland its freedom. And a coup against the government was organized by the military with monarchical consent, by the way. That they ended up, and the Liberal Party, which was doing it, backed off in the end, and so it all dissipated. But you know, it's pretty structural to the UK's integrity to not let Ireland be Ireland.
I might call that trouble.
Yeah.
Okay, Dennis, you're about ready to jump in about 6 minutes. So why don't you start the wind down and see if we can wrap this up for Brent.
You mean we haven't been winding down? Oh.
Well, we always get where, you know.
I really think Brent called the end of the show a half hour ago.
There's no
My
wind down until
grandma and
somebody
your
lights a
grandma.
cigarette.
I can't hear anybody.
Fire. My grandma and your grandma.
Okay, thank you. Dennis?
Oh, I can't come after that. My God.
Oh, how about before it then?
Well, I was just going to say, Brent, you know, there's no wind down until somebody lights a cigarette. Good show. I learned some stuff. I really like the format of trying to pull apart the antitrust stuff. Obviously, that's going to be a topic that we talk about for a long time. I'm just happy for you, Frank, that you're getting a vaccine potentially. I look forward to all of that being in our futures, not too far out. Have a great week.
Keith?
I'm going to tell you all have a great Christmas and New Year, because I suspect you will not see me till after January the 5th, because I'm not going to be in a good Wi-Fi spot.
You're going to be in Atlanta?
I'm going to be in Cape Town.
Oh.
There you go. Good joke.
Brent's using up all the Wi-Fi in Atlanta right now. Okay, Brent?
I actually enjoyed this one. This was really good, especially that first hour. I mean, we're hitting that first hour thing really well.
Hey, I think we can put that on a loop. Michael?
Have a very good holiday. Have a good second night of Hanukkah and a great Christmas and New Year.
You too.
Frank?
Absolutely.
Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Kwanzaa, and I can't remember the Stormzy music genre, but check it out, Brent. You will appreciate it. Send me a note once you have.
I will.
And Shabbat Shalom as well, because you get a double whammy today.
This is true. Yes.
And
Is that
we
the one
can't-
where you? Never mind. I was
we
going to
can't
say
leave out
something about the
can't leave out Festivus too, because that's
best of us for the
for
rest,
the rest of us. That's right.
And Kwanzaa.
I said that.
I think Frank got that one. Yeah.
I threw that in there.
All right. How about you, Steve?
How about me?
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah.
Last thoughts from Gilmore.
Yes.
I'm just wondering whether we're going to do any shows before the Biden administration gets in.
Yeah, we are.
That's like
So
a month
you-
away or 3 weeks away. Isn't it? No, a month.
You
There's a month.
how many hours is the time difference between the west coast of America and 10 hours? Okay. So you're saying you're not going to make that show?
If I've got bandwidth, I'll join the show, but I know I'm going to be dependent on this device that does LTE 4G.
Right.
So as long as the bandwidth is good enough, I'll join the show, but it might not be.
Well, we'll be trying to create a schedule, a holiday schedule that at least respects the fact that some of us need a little bit of a holiday. But we'll catch y'all in the back channel and try to figure that out.
By the way, we're still streaming, aren't we? Just-
We're still streaming.
I hope so.
We are.
Steve hasn't said goodbye yet. We can't stop streaming until Steve says goodbye.
Okay, I'd like to thank our producer and director, Tina Chase Gilmore.
Thank you all.
Yay.
I'd
Yay.
like to thank Brent Leary, Michael Markman,
Thanks for having me.
Keith Tier, Frank Radis,
Thanks for having me, and see you gangsters later.
Dennis Pombriand,
Yeah, thanks. Good seeing you. Happy holidays.
thanks to everybody who showed up, and especially those who didn't. We'll see you again whenever the next time is. Bye. But bye.
Bye-bye.
Is that crunk? But
Ay, ay, ay.
Bye.
That's more AF.
Yeah.
Bye.
Chow mein. Oh, and then don't forget Tina, our director producer. You didn't remember Tina?
I see you were
That was
having
first.
some sort of a
It's
you were having
it's
We have to say goodbye.
a brain.
Frank, you're having a senior moment there. We already did it.
I didn't hear. Did I miss Tina? Really? Oh my god!
This show will
I
never
am-
end.
Senior moment.
We don't have a cut point.
Did we say goodbye?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.